All right, real life traders. We are, let's see, it is Friday. No, yeah, it is Friday, isn't it? It is Friday. Friday, February 16th, 3 o'clock. So hour left in the market. I usually don't get involved. I mean, I'll keep an eye out for a trade, but at 3 o'clock, we've got an hour. Things would have to happen really quick. But I do have a pretty good um chart here to show you and share with you regarding the topic that we tend to always talk about when I'm here, which is analyzing price action and volume. And let me pull up the chat because it went away on me again. There we go. And I have Miguel in the house with me, not literally, but virtually. And Miguel has been participating in the week-long free education that we've been doing with real life trading every night, 6 p.m. We've been focusing on intermediate trading and doing a deep dive into technical analysis. And Miguel has been there with me every single night, says he probably cannot make it tonight, which I highly, highly recommend, Miguel, that you don't even try to make it. It's Miguel's wife's birthday. So Miguel, I think if you were to play it smart, you would just go, yeah, I'm definitely not going to be there tonight. I'm going to take my wife out for dinner. Yeah. Okay. So Miguel, here we go. We're looking at just give me a one real quick, everyone. You should be looking at my chart of NVDA. Cool. Yeah, let me get rid of this. I'm gonna hide. Okay. So Miguel, here we are. We're looking at NVIDIA. So NVIDIA open, first of all, right? Here's NVIDIA on the daily chart. So we do actually get, that's interesting. Okay. I hadn't really looked at the daily chart yet, but so Miguel, what kind of technically we got a gap, right? So what kind of a gap did we get? And Miguel, and if you're not sure, I'll let somebody else answer because we haven't really covered the gaps. But that's one thing we are talking about tonight are gaps. Yeah. So it was a red candle. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Okay. So red candle yesterday, and we actually gapped up and we opened above it. So technically, yeah, gap and go. But did this behave? I mean, if you just look at on the daily chart here, right? Gap and go, you typically expect to be strong, right? A strong mover in the direction of the gap. Did this respond that way? No. Didn't behave like a gap and go at all, which really has not been surprising as of late. A couple years ago, when I first started trading the gaps, the retest gaps and the gap and goes, like you could count on if it was a gap and go, it would gap and it would move. And that's why we refer to it as a gap and go. I've noticed more and more the gaps are really kind of uh, less reliable these days in terms of that. Like what you would expect from a gap and go or from a like I've noticed a lot of the gaps that have a catalyst like earnings, like an earnings gap, tend to actually make their moves pre-market for the most part, and then they just don't really give you that move intraday that we enjoyed so much, a couple years ago. But anyway, we did get technically a gap and go. Certainly did not behave like it. All right, so Miguel, looking here, what do we have? What do you see that we obvious something there? Yeah, resistance, right? So pre-market resistance specifically, right? So let's mark that off. So we definitely have some pre-market resistance there. Yeah. I just wanted to see if there was anything further back, right? So Miguel, what do you do? Which way do you always look when you're trying to figure stuff out? Look left. Yeah, Miguel's been paying attention. Okay. We know we have this level of resistance here. It was established pre-market. We open up, get rejected, and then we sell off, right? Now, Miguel, based on what I was saying this week, right? The very first candle, right? What do you know to expect about the volume on the very first candle of the day? Yeah, it's always high, right? The first candle is always has high volume for a variety of different reasons. It's volatile. So, okay, we get a decent sized bearish candle here. Next candle. Okay. Now we have bullish candle. And Miguel, what do you notice about that you think I'm looking at that particular candle in relationship to the first candle? Beautiful. Look at you. Inside candle. You are crushing it. Yeah, inside candle. So, yeah, it's a bullish candle, but we're still inside the price action of the original candle, right? So we don't really have a clear direction yet. Next candle. Wow. Look at that. So, Miguel, how many people, how many traders do you think saw this pre-market overhead resistance, saw that the very first candle got rejected there? How many traders do you think lined up and put their entries right there above that candle? And too many. Yeah. I'd say there were probably a lot of retail traders lined up here, looking to take a break of that candle, thinking, okay, if that breaks, that's the direction, that's where it's going. Now, and that's also, Miguel, in all fairness, isn't that what I mentioned to you this past week in training about an inside candle? That typically the direction of the break of the inside candle is the direction that price goes. Typically, right? Correct. Now, but Miguel, does that happen all the time? Does everything work all the time in the market? Of course not, right? No. So, and also, we talked about this the other day, trying to remember who I had on the mic with me. This is literally it's the same setup. Is drawing a blank now. That was a couple days ago. Who was I? Who did I unmic that day? Miguel, was that you? About that had a similar setup like this? No, there was somebody else. Or was that you? Oh, it was you. Okay. Forgive me. I'm sitting here racking my brain going, I know that I had this conversation. So, Miguel, right? Here's the exact same scenario as the other day when we talked about this. Pre-market resistance, first candle. Do you go long here or do you wait maybe to see if you can get a break and a hold above the pre-market level? Right? Because if I remember correctly, the other day, you actually got into that trade. That's right. You got into that trade and it basically went sideways for the rest of your life. Right? Yeah, exact same setup. Yep. So that was you. So funny. I'm just, the days just are a blur to me, right? Day is gone and I forget everything. But I knew I had the conversation, just didn't remember it was with you. But I'm glad that we're talking about this now. So yeah, same exact scenario as the other day where you had a pre-market level that you knew on the first candle got, that's what rejected this first candle, right? So pre-market level, in order for this to work, that level has to get broken and it needs to hold. So as we talked about the other day, what my approach would be to let it break, see if price can hold above it, and then look to get in on a limit buy, as opposed to taking the breakout. Because what do you think, Miguel? Do breakouts and breakdowns typically work, or do they typically fail? Most breakouts fail. Correct. Most breakouts and breakdowns fail. So that's why in this scenario, I would wait to get some type of a break above, and then I want to see the conviction in the movement. I want to see that can hold above that resistance level and then get in on a limit buy. This right here, what do we call that, Miguel? What is that? What happened right there? What's the term that we use for that? Well, yeah, it is rejection, but what was it's a two words and it starts with bull. Bull. It is a shooting star. Your answers are all correct. What I'm looking for here, it's a bull trap, right? It's a classic right there, bull trap. Now, we don't know. We have to go forward on this. I honestly, I don't know what the next candle is going to look like, right? But potentially that is a bull trap. We can see how price triggered in all those orders, right? All those people who were sitting here looking to go long, triggered in those orders and sold right off. That is a classic bull trap. If price comes back down, for all I know, maybe price goes up, but let's see what happens. Next candle. Okay. I would not be, how happy would you be right now, Miguel, if you got into that trade? Would you be excited right now? Pretty sad, right? Yeah, I would be sad as well. Next candle. Yeah, now I'm feeling really sad because now I know that for sure that was a trap. Next candle. Okay. And assuming that your stop is way down here, which by the way, that's a pretty big candle, that first one anyway. I don't know that I would even, go ahead and what is that? If we did that, that's almost like a 10 point. Yeah. It's almost like a 10 point, I wouldn't even take that regardless, just because it was such a big candle. But anyway, comes back down right now. Miguel, what do you notice about the volume? What's happening with the volume? And to your point, Miguel's putting in the chat, can't get a proper reward versus risk for him to take the trade, right? I agree. Yeah. And volume is decreasing, right? So price is coming down, volume is decreasing. Next candle. Now what is volume doing? Right? Picking up. So Miguel, what do you know that is a possible sign of? New low of day after prices come down and volume starts to pick up. Maybe it is. Yep. Okay, that's fine. Miguel says he's not sure. Okay. So if you recall, we were talking about how this could be what the reason that you want to pay attention to those nuances, right? Price coming down here, breaking the low of the day, and all of a sudden volume picking up as price is going down like that. It could be, no, it could be a sign of exhaustion selling, right? We talked about that. So capitulation, exhaustion selling, like basically the bears running out of steam, right? Potentially. We don't know for sure, but that's what I look for, right? What I'm looking for is I'm paying attention to the volume, and I notice the volume starts to pick up. After it dropped off here, it's starting to pick up as it's moving lower. Makes me think, okay, could a possible reversal be coming in? Next candle. And what do you get? Right? Hammer. And also, tell me everything about that hammer that fits my all the boxes that I want to check off. Is it new low of day? Yeah. Increasing volume at the low of day. Yep. So it's a hammer. It's at a new low of day and volume picked up, right? So do you want to just rely on just the 3-minute chart alone, Miguel? Or do you want to, what's your move? You want to look at the 5. I like that. Let's look at the 5. Let's see. Let's catch up here. Price is coming down. Okay. So I think we're about where we are, 950 here, right? Let's go back to that 3-minute chart. Yep, 954. So we're pretty close. Okay. So let's go with one more candle. There you go. So Miguel, what do you have now? Hammer. But what's important about what do you have here? Look, so we were initially on a 3-minute chart, right? 3-minute chart, and then you said you wanted to look at the 5-minute chart. And the reason for that, right, is, and let's now go to the 15, and there's that hammer, or that candle. Hammer-ish. It's more like a spinning top, right? It's the wicks are about the same length, but still giving you that possible reversal, right? So the idea behind that is don't rely on just the 3-minute chart. Use the 5-minute, the 15-minute also for confirmation, right? Ideally, have those charts in alignment, right? Have your Ideally, what you want to see is on the 3-minute, when you saw that volume spike with the hammer, you want to see it on the 5-minute chart as well. And also, ideally, on the 15-minute. But I still like a spinning top like that at the bottom, right? It's still, what is this what kind of, even though it's a spinning top, what kind of what would you categorize that candle as? How would you classify it? Spinning top is what kind of a candle? Doji, right? Yeah, 100%. And what does the doji represent? Could be potential reversal. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Indecision. Yep. Doji is indecision. So now we have 3-minute chart. We have a hammer, which is a potential reversal. We have hammer-ish on the 5-minute chart. I still like the look of that. It's still a hammer to me, with a little bit of a longer upper wick, which is cool. Because it represents, what is the upper wick here on that 5-minute represent? What kind of pressure? Yeah, selling pressure, right? So it's a hammer because the lower wick is at least 2 times longer than the body of the candle. And then you have the upper wick there, which represents selling pressure. So if that upper wick is selling pressure, you think there's some added value to that if that candle gets taken out to the bullish? Yeah, it's a trap, right? So potentially now you are looking at potentially trapping, right? Trapping the bears at this point. So now the bulls have already been trapped. Now we're looking at a potential bear trap. So what do you think, Miguel? Do we like this setup? Is that something we would want to take? Yeah, not bad guess. I like it myself. I do like it. Definitely. So what are we going to look to do here, Miguel? We're going to look to bracket this candle. Let's put some lines in here. We have a entry, and again, these are not exact, but a stop. Just buy above, under. Okay, so yep, entry above. Let's color code this just so we can see it clearly. Make that green. So we have our entry above, stop down below, something like that. Now, what is my criteria? The next step. What do I need to see? I like the setup. I like the way it looks, but there's one thing I have to verify before I can even take that trade. Do you remember what that is? Yeah. So Miguel wrote reward versus risk, which is 100%. I need to see that to my potential target, right? Yep. 1.2. To my potential target, I need to see a minimum of 1.2 or 1.4 R to take the trade. Ideally, I'd like to see 2 R. So, Miguel, where do you think, and the key word here is realistically. So, do you think going all the way up here to the high of the day, for me, is that my realistic target? No. So since I'm just going to I'm going to bring my line down. I'm just going to pull down and you tell me when to stop. About 7:39. Okay. I'll go with that. Okay. Let's go. Let's go with that line. I'll tell you where. Okay. And again, this is interesting because 7:39 and I'm good with that. Let's just go with that. I like it. Okay. 7:39. My target would have been right here at 741, like right there, 741.20. And it's fine. And that's, and it's great because this is a really good example of how two different traders will have different approaches, right? Maybe see things a little bit differently. Um, my argument is that we've talked about in class together is not to go for the high of the day because why? Because everyone is looking at that level. Everyone is trying to target the high of day because that's what we've been told over and over. Oh, well, when you get into a trade, if target the high of the day. But everyone is targeting that, right? So we don't want to be everyone. We want to be a little different. So let me color code. This is my target. And this is Miguel's target right here. Right? Okay. Now, the reason, so back to this. Here's my argument for I don't like the high day because again, everybody is going to target the high of the day. I want to be at a level that I think realistically price can get back up to before it gets rejected. If it gets rejected, I like the fact that I was looking at the open of this candle, right? So the top of the body here. I like how it's below this wick. It's still under this wick, and it's definitely under this wick. So that's how I chose that. Now, you could be also look at something like this, right? Drop a line in here, which also would be interesting because it's at the close of this candle, basically the open of this candle and the open of this candle. So now that I'm looking at it, that might even be a better potential area, right? But again, this is, everyone can evaluate and do their own analysis and decide where they want. But let's just go with all three of these. Why not? I'll be curious to see which one actually would be the winner if it works, right? The trade may not work. We don't know. So we like to set up. We believe definitely, I don't even have to draw lines. I can eyeball this and I can know that 1R is about here. So I think you're good with your 1.2. I think, what do you think, Miguel? Are we good? You think we can um go forward with that? Yeah, me too. I think the trade setup is good. I think we have the proper reward to risk. So let's just see where we get to. Next candle. All right. So now, interesting. Now what do we have, Miguel? 5 minute. Even better. Yeah. So now what do we do? Let's adjust our lines, right? It's pretty simple. We're just going to take our stop. We're going to go down. And now we're on the 5 minute chart, right? So we got plenty of time, right? Plenty of time. We didn't get triggered into the trade. We have plenty of time to adjust. And now we have another hammer to work off of. Volume picked up again, right? After this candle. So we had a little bit of drop off in volume here and it picked up here. And now we have, an even nicer looking hammer. Wouldn't you agree? Right? And we have a better reward to risk. So now we definitely are looking at like, that's 1R. So we like, maybe that's an R and a half there. Anyway, it's a better setup. So the cool thing is we didn't get triggered in, right? And now we can set up a much better entry and stop. So next candle. Okay, boom. Now we're triggered in, right? We're in the trade. All right, now what? We're just going to wait and see what happens, right? Next candle. And before I go to the next candle, a couple things I like, right? These three candles. What do you notice, Miguel, about all three of those candles? What do they have in common? Yeah, long lower wicks, right? So there's definitely a lot of buying pressure here. All three of those candles, and each of them have this one more so, this one a little bit, and this one some, right? There's some selling pressure, right? So that's good, right? We know that if we could take out that selling pressure, we'll be in good shape. We know that this was, if we look even back here from yesterday, we know that this was yesterday's support area here at the end of the day. So we're in the trade and we're good with that. Next candle, okay, not the greatest, right? But we're in it. And here's the thing, Miguel, right? We got into the trade. Do we have to pay for the ride to see if we like the ride? Right? We do. We Miguel says, not sure what you mean. So, Miguel, if we go to the amusement park, right? If we go to the fair and we want to get on this ride that we've never been on, and we don't know if we're going to like it, right? We have no idea if we're going to like this ride, but we have to pay the ticket to get on the ride to see, are we going to enjoy it or are we not going to like it? Hey, real quick, let me ask you all. I have can you hear that background noise? No. Okay, cool. If you do start to hear the background noise and it's if it is distracting, let me know and I'll have that person. There's somebody outside my office doing something. All right, so not the greatest candle, right? Some selling pressure here, but we're in it, right? There's nothing to do at this point. We can't move our stop. So also, Miguel, like we just got into the trade, so I can't move my stop that quickly anyway in this particular setup. But also, I have a rule that says, and this is a great rule for anybody who wants to be able to control their emotions when it comes to moving your stop. If I'm in a bullish trade, so we all agree that we went long here and we're getting into a bullish trade, I have a rule that says that I cannot move my stop. If I'm going bullish, I cannot move it on a bearish candle. So, in other words, regardless of the direction I'm going, I cannot move my stop if I get a candle going against me. So in this case, I'm going long. I got a red candle. I can't do anything, right? Now, what's really kind of interesting here, Miguel, is if we're thinking about moving our stops, if you notice here, we don't really have immediately to the left. We really don't have a recent pivot to target in terms of, okay, now I'm going to start moving my stop because the most recent pivot was the high of the day, right? You see that here? But we could look back at yesterday's price action and we see that this is clearly a level here, right? Right here. Let me just draw a line. All right. So, and actually that works out pretty well. Look at that line, right? That line yesterday was, let me extend it to the left. That line yesterday clearly was a level throughout that day of what, Miguel? What was that yesterday? Resistance, 100%. So what happens to resistance when it gets broken? It becomes support, 100%. So if we can, one thing we could do here is we could just use yesterday's price action as a level. And what I could say, the if then. So whenever I'm trading, I always use a series of if then statements. So if you've ever been involved in like computer programming, right? The if then statement is a common thing when you are developing a computer program. So if this happens, then I'm going to do this. Or if that happens, I'm going to do this. However you want to look at it. If then. So my if then statement that I'm starting to come up with right now is because my most recent pivot on today's price action is way up here. I'm not going to wait until price gets up there to move my stop because that's basically my target, right? Well, my target is any one of these green lines that we drew out. So I'm going to use yesterday's price action. And I'm going to say if price gets above this previous resistance, if it can close strongly above it, then I'm going to look to move my stop. If then, right? Does that make sense? So next candle. Okay, there you go. Now, what's really interesting about this candle is, Miguel, look where it stopped. Where did it stop? It stopped right at that line that I drew, right? Right at that level of yesterday's resistance. Right on the money, basically. And that's the beauty of technical analysis. And I'm thinking I might actually use this example tonight because this is a really good example of support resistance, right? Because that's exactly what happened here, right? Price got right up to this level. That's yesterday where it got rejected all day long, right? Here, 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 kind of here, got close. But again, remember, it's not a dedicated level, it's a zone. So interesting, right? Price got rejected. Next candle. Yeah, and it held yesterday's support, right? Textbook. So what happened here now, right? So now we get a red candle right at that. So price is right now getting rejected at that level. So now we know, right? Now we have two candles that could not break through that level, right? Two candles where rejection occurred. All the more reason why we should feel comfortable. If we can break that level and hold above that level, we know that we have a good level of now what will be support, right? Because it's currently resistance. Next candle, okay? Pull back. Next candle, okay? So also notice how we didn't, we haven't moved our stop yet, right? Because we didn't really have that opportunity because I said my if then, right? My thesis that I formulated when I got into this was if we break above this level and hold it above it, then I can move my stop. So I haven't moved my stop yet. Now, I'm already starting to look where I want to move my stop because I have to move it. Once I am able to move it, I want to move it somewhere that makes sense initially, and it's going to reduce my, if price just completely goes against me and I get stopped out, I want to make sure that I mitigate my risk. I can clearly see these wicks right here, these three wicks, this one, and this one, even though this pushed through, but that was the trap, right? So I definitely see a level of support right here. So if and when we get the chance to move my stop, that's where I'm going to be looking for initially. But let's keep going with this. Let's see what happens. Okay, next candle. And again, look where it's holding, right? It's a nice looking bullish candle. Volume is dropping off here, right? Okay. But but price can move on no or low volume. But so nothing really, we're just in a holding pattern right now. But I do like the fact that, we got this really nice bullish candle. It's actually a bullish engulfing candle, right? Because the body of this candle is engulfing the body of this candle. Next one. Okay. We got our close. But Miguel, what do you think? You feel good about that close above that level, or is it kind of it's okay. Yeah, I agree. It's not great. If if the close was up here, I'd feel much better about it, right? But I think at this point, I said if I can get a close above it, right? It's not the greatest close, but I also don't want to get caught in losing a full R if I can avoid it. So I think right now, and we're at VWAP, right? So that's that gold yellow line right here. I think at this point, I'm going to leave this red line. I think I would move my stop like to here. Okay. So yeah, so I'm not able to reduce my risk in half, but maybe at this point, if price totally reverses and takes me out, maybe my loss becomes 0.7 R, right? But I would rather lose 0.7 R than lose a full R. Would you agree, Miguel? Right? Sure. Next candle. Okay. Well, not great. We're still getting now we're getting rejected by VWAP, right? So this line right here. Now we're getting rejected by VWAP, but I'm okay because I know that I won't lose a full R. So so far I've been able to do my job, right? So Miguel, here's another thing, right? Towards the end of last night, we were talking about something specific. Do you remember what we were talking about at the very end of they weren't horizontal lines, there was something else. And I was drawing them purple. Nope, not a moving average. Straight line. It was a trend line, right? Yeah, Cindy, trend line. Yep. So how many points do I need to draw a trend line at this point? Minimum. Yeah, two. I need two minimum. So I do see this right here and here. So why don't we just go ahead and for fun, we don't know what's going to happen, but let's put in this trend line right there and let's extend it to the right. so that when price does develop, we have that trend line. So Miguel, what will that trend line, how will that help me? What's that going to serve as? Yeah, it's going to show me that if that trend line can hold, that is a level of support that I can then also use to place my stop, right? If I don't have some clear levels visually, I can at least use the trend line to move my stop. Next candle, okay, we're still not like moving the way I would want to, right? But we've got a little bit of sideways action. We are holding, right? This candle closed above that line, but this candle closed back above it. Next candle, okay? Now, the good news is that, yeah, we got, we got a red candle in here, but we've got a nice lower wick. So there's definitely some buying pressure, right? The bulls are holding. That's what Miguel's saying. Yep. And the trend line is intact, right? So we know things are looking pretty good, right? I mean, this could just roll over, but we know if that trend line gets broken, the trade's probably going to roll over on us. And now we didn't really talk about this in class, Miguel, but I do when this right here, what's happening right here? These 4 candles in a row. What are we doing? Yeah, we're building pressure. Definitely. So we're getting some sideways consolidation. But here's what I like about it specifically is that sideways consolidation, see how it's happening right underneath VWAP. So price has been underneath VWAP ever since here. Comes down, comes up. And so what I have seen, what I have come to recognize is that a lot of times when price can consolidate, when price spends time underneath VWAP and then it gets up to it and it consolidates just right underneath VWAP, if it can break it, it gets it with a nice move. Okay. Because it's building pressure. Yep. It pops. So, okay. And again, I'm just processing all this in my head as, as this, trade is developing. Next candle. There you go. Now we got a nice close. Okay. So there's the close I was looking for. Not only did we get the close above the resistance level here that we wanted, but now we also know, because look at all this movement around that level, we know that should become some decent support now. So I'm going to go ahead and move my stop. I'm going to come up a little bit further now. I'm going to go just nudge it up a little bit, right? I don't want to get too tight with it, but I like it underneath here. It's below this level. Okay, next candle. Okay, now, a couple things we could do at this point. So we are above the level that I said where I want my where we're above the level where I said we need to get above to start moving the stop. And since we cleared that, that's also one of my qualifiers for my 5-minute 2-bar trailing stop strategy. So once I get a strong close above a level like that, I then can also implement my 5-minute 2-bar trailing stop, which would mean with this candle closing above this one, I could count back 2, 1, 2, and that's where my stop can go, below this candle. So at this point, if I wanted to do that, right, I could move my stop basically right up to break even right now. And then what? We have a free trade, right? So let's see how this is going to work out. If I move it up here, I'm just going to leave it like right there so we can see it, right? But basically, I would move my stop to break even. So yeah, it's a 5-minute. The key thing in there is 5-minute, right? A 5-minute 2-bar trailing stop. So, and the rule is, in order for me to move my stop, the next candle has to have a higher high and a higher low. So next candle comes in. Do I have a higher high and a higher low? I absolutely do. Count back 2, 1, 2. So now my stop can be below this, but I still do have this pivot right here. So maybe what I do is maybe I just kind of move my stop like up here, right? I could technically put underneath this candle, but I like that pivot. So let's just leave it there. Leave it a little bit looser. Next candle. Okay. We did make a higher high and a higher low. Now, Miguel, you hit your target. Did you take all? Did you take everything off there, or did you, how are you playing that? That was your level that it just hit sometimes. Okay, well, that's, hey, sometimes is actually a reasonable answer, right? Because we talked about this in class. Like, I would determine what I'm going to do based on, yep, you said it depends on your R's. Where are you in the month, the week, the day, right? So where are you in terms of your profitability in general? So if you're kind of behind, maybe you're shooting for a little bit more. If you are, doing well, maybe you play it a little more conservative, right? It depends on your trader psychology, how you want to do that. But that was a nice, and look, we have a shooting star type candle. And what else do you notice about that candle, Miguel? What else is going on at that same moment? Yeah. See how not crazy, right? But volume definitely is picking up, right? Volume definitely picked up here. So if I'm looking at that, and I'm just curious, real quick, let me just I do want to actually, because I would have done this at some point, I would have figured out where 2R is. Because at this point, I probably would have been looking to know where my 2R level was. So that's one there. Let me just drop a line in here. That's one. All right. So my 2R is basically almost at my top line here. Okay. So, you know, you chose a good level. I'm gonna go, you chose that, but look, I'm not even gonna say that I would have taken some off yet, because I said I was targeting maybe this line or this line, right? So Miguel's already either completely out of the trade, or Miguel has taken off maybe 90% of your position. You're holding 10 to see what it can do, right? But for me, I'm still in it. Now, because I'm still in it and I haven't taken anything off, again, maybe I took some off at 1R. I mean, that's up to you. I mean, everybody approaches things differently. But let's assume, for argument's sake, I haven't taken anything off. Let me get rid of this line. I can count back 2, 1, 2, and I can move my stop below this, now below that candle. And given the fact that, so what's interesting is right below this candle where I was about to move my stop, what line is already there? Yesterday's previous resistance, which is now support, coincidentally, right? So I have a decision to make. I can, play this a little bit tighter and move my stop like right to that line, or play a little bit looser and keep my stop down here in case it comes back down and retest it. Because this basically was the breakout right here, right? And that breakout worked. It broke and it held. But Miguel, what typically happens after a breakout? Retest. Yep. So I have a decision to make. Do I move my stop right here to right on that line, or do I play it? Because technically, per my trailing stop, I could put it right below this. It would be right there. But now I'm putting it right on that line, which I know can possibly get retested. So I don't know how this is going to play out, because quite frankly, I didn't really look at it. But I'm going to just say, you know what? I'm just going to play it a little loose. I'm going to see what the next candle does. So I'm going to keep my stop down here. Keep it a little bit loose. Okay. Now I've got 2 candles in a row that did hit one of my targets, right? So depending on which one I was actually using, maybe I'm out in 90% of my trade, right? So in the event, let's just go with the hypothetical that I use that line. You know what? Or do I just force myself to use that line because that was the first one I drew? What do you think, Miguel? Which of these two should I force myself to use the higher one because that was the first one I drew? You're not picky. Okay. Well, in any event, 2 candles, because this does qualify. A higher high and a higher low. Count back 2. My stop is now going below this candle. So there's my new stop. So couple things, right? First of all, I'm not quite locking in a full R if it comes back and takes me out. I'm going to say that I did not take off anything. I'm going to say I'm going to force myself. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to force myself to go with my initial line, which was that one, because that was the first one I drew. You chose this level. I chose that level. So I'm going to go with that one. So let's see. Okay. And if that's the case, then I'm definitely taking off 90% of my position at that if it hits that level. Okay. And then we'll see what happens. But my stop currently can be underneath this candle because this did make a higher high and higher low. Next candle. Okay. Now, I can't do anything with my stop because this candle made a lower low and a lower high. Okay. So I have to wait. Next candle. Okay. Things are getting interesting. So I still need to wait for a higher high and a higher low compared to this candle, right? That's per my rules. That's the candle where I need to get the higher high and higher low. So I really can't move my stop necessarily, but I'm getting so close to my target. If I count back, maybe I inch my stop up just a little bit, like here, right? I could come up here, right? And at that point, I'm locking in at least a full R. But let's just see, if I bring it like right here, I'll just be curious because I'm so close to hitting my target. Let's see what happens. Okay, now we're getting some sideways action. I'm not seeing anything volume-wise that's scary. Okay, so I'm going to be patient, right? Because I need a higher high and a higher low compared to this candle. Still, that's still the qualifying candle. And quite frankly, I'm probably thinking at this time that if it breaks this high, it's hitting my target for the next candle. That does. So let's see. There you go. Okay, I would have hit my target. So I forced myself to go with that level. Would have hit my target. I'm out 90% of the trade, but I'm not over, right? Because I'm still holding 10%. So I can count back 2 candles. And now I'm going to be a little tighter with my stop. Again, it's only 10%, but I don't want to give it, I want to get back as little as possible. Again, I'm only still holding 10%. Small amount of my initial $100,000 trade. Kidding. Definitely kidding. All right. So hits the target. Cool. That's great. Feel good. Nice trade. Next candle. Boom. Just took me out. Okay. Because you don't know what's going to happen. Right. And that's always the risk. And that's the decision that you need to make is, okay, do I just take everything off at a level, or do I take off 90% and see if the remaining 10 can keep running? And again, that's just it's a flip of a coin, right? Just there's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever you feel. But what's kind of cool is notice how this trend line is still intact, right? So let's just play this out, see what happens here. So I'm out of my trade at this point, right? But I did hit this level here and locked in a nice profit. So interesting, right? So we've got some sideways movement up top. We're coming to that trend line. Be interesting to see what happens here. So notice how it went right to that line, right? Trend lines are fantastic, ways of getting that horizontal support resistance versus just the, I shouldn't say horizontal, the angular support resistance versus just the horizontal lines. Next candle, okay, pushing up a little bit. Sideways. Okay, now look at that. So Miguel, what do you notice about those last 3 candles that came in? Right? All 3 are dojis, right? 3 dojis in a row, indecision, where price is clearly struggling, right? We're going sideways here. So if you notice, Let me get rid of these lines now. Since we're out of that trade. So sideways action, right? And it's all happening here where we got to our target. Sideways action. So, and now we've got these dojis that are coming in. So I'm thinking to myself, this is either going to pop, have a nice pop bullish, or it's going to be a nice pop bearish. And I don't know which, right? But I know for sure that there is some consolidation going on here. It's building pressure. And now we have 3 dojis in a row. So I would not be surprised to see a big candle come in very shortly, right? Yeah, Jeff, 3 dojis in a row right there. Boom. Let's see. Next candle. Okay. So not a big candle, but now but it's still a small candle followed by another doji. So there's definitely some indecision, right? Another small candle, but we're still like just going sideways here, right? We're holding that level right there. Next candle. Okay. There you go. So there's that big move that I was talking about. Waiting for after that sideways action like that and all those dojis, when I was saying wouldn't surprise me if there was a big candle that came in. And there's that candle. So right now that trend line that got broken here, right? Clearly done, but it held nicely all through this move. No. So Julie, no, because just given this sideways movement here, right? There's no way to know which direction that's going to go. You just don't know. Now, up to this point, right? We were definitely in a so we double topped here basically. We came up here, we were making higher highs, higher lows. So we were in a bit of an uptrend here, right? Downtrend here, uptrend here, but we're double topping. So at that point, it's a flip of a coin which direction. There's no way of knowing, right? Because that pressure that's building could go either way. And that's why it's referred to as indecision, right? Because nobody knows, right? That's just the chart's trying to work its way out. You don't really know the direction that things are going to go until it finally pops, right? So there you get the breakdown, and you're right back to basically our open. So, but interesting, right? I mean, interesting setup. I again, you'll find these constantly, and that's why I love them so much. Low of the day hammer or the high of the day shooting star. We didn't really get one here, right? Sometimes you get you'll get this for the move up, and then up here you'll get a shooting star to take it bearish. So here we just got the one direction play, but these are this is why they're my favorite setups. I will wait and be patient and wait and wait and wait until I see these, just because they're so reliable. At least they have been, right? It doesn't mean that that's going to last forever. It could change, but they have been so extremely reliable that I'll just keep taking that trade over and over. And sometimes you lose, sometimes it doesn't work, but it's all about probabilities, right? So if I'm taking this kind of trade, I'm taking it because it has shown me that it does have a very high probability of success, which is why I like it so much. All right. 359. I'm not sure who's coming in after me. Let's see. Right now, I just see myself and Johnny, but Johnny's been here all day. I don't recall off the top of my head who is supposed to be in. Anyway, so real quick, while I'm waiting for the next moderator, any questions on that? Any thoughts, questions? Oh, Yates is coming on. Cool. Thanks, John. Um, So Miguel's saying, so I like that setup. Sometimes I do a wave count and it's wave 3, and I'm afraid it would go up and give me a lower shadow. Yeah, wave 2. Yeah. So here's the thing about the waves, Miguel, is that I've just found like the wave counts to me, okay, are very subjective, right? People see them differently. And and that's okay, but like you might count a wave one way and I'll count it another way, but really hard to see this uh that kind of a hammer candle with volume, kind of hard for two people to see that two different ways. Would you agree? Yeah, the volume there is key, right? So add that component to it. It's kind of hard for two people not to see that the same way versus like wave counts. And you'll notice, Miguel, that have you heard me really even talking about wave counts this past week? Talking about, yeah, no. And look, it's not that there's not a place for it, and I know Johnny likes it. It's just, but that again is what makes us all unique in terms of our own personal trading styles. I have just found that I find that counting waves is just a very subjective thing. Um, if I wanted to, and Yates, I know you're here, but I'm going to go back to a quick share. Wait, or maybe I'm still sharing. Am I still sharing my NVDA chart? Yeah. So it's interesting. Like, could you say that this, right? If I was going to, start down here, could this be a 1, this little pullback a 2, and then that move is the 3, right? But then we don't see the 4 or the 5. But I mean, you could almost make that argument that this initial move from here to here is a 1, and then that's a 2. And see how I don't know how well you, if I hold my cursor there, you can see those lines. You see the white lines, right? So those white lines are actually kind of drawing it, right? 1, 2, 3, right? But then that's where it stops. So that's yeah. So yeah, Win is saying I love them, but the problem is that there can be 10 different kinds of corrections between them. Yeah, and you just never know. And that's so anyway, that's use what works for you is all I can say. And I'm just, I'm one of those people where, I've just never been a huge wave count person. Again, doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's just not my thing. Yeah, and Miguel says the hammers have been working well. Cool. All right, Yates, you are here. At least I see Yates as a panelist. I don't know if he's there. He goes.
Hey man, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I am good. Um, there we go. I already made you a host.
Sweet.
Cool. Thanks everyone. So real quick, who's going to be with me tonight? Who's going to come back at 6 for tonight's class? Yep. Win, by the way. And Julie will be there. Al, cool. Jeff. So I might have to bore you all with a little recap of what I just went over, but I'll make it quick though, because I do want to talk about other stuff tonight. But Win, I've been meaning to send you a message. I want to say that how much I appreciate your help this past week with helping to answer people's questions and just being there. You've been a massive, massive help to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Win's the man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. No, he's all week long. Yeah. So, I've been reteaching that live, the intermediate class, and,
Yep.
and the questions just flow, right. And you can't, I do try to, get to all of them, but there are a bunch that, like, but I notice that like I go to stop what I'm saying to answer, and then Wynn's already in there typing the answer. So
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, if you're on a train of thought, it's hard to
yeah.
stop it, start over. I mean, I do that all the time on the mic, like in this informal kind of thing, and
Yep.
we just go everywhere and you never get what you wanted to say done, but
Right.
it's fine. Whereas if you're doing a class, like it's good to have
Yeah.
get things done, right?
Yep. But Wynn has been my right hand all week. So anyway, Wynn, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks,
Cool.
Win. You're the man. All
All right.
right.
It is all you, my friend.
Sweet. Yeah, I think you're still recording, but
Yeah. Let me, I'm going to stop yeah, let me do that. Let me stop the recording.